By way of background, the Commonwealth Heads of Government meet every 2 years, and this is the biggest gathering that the Commonwealth organises. And in terms of business, CWIC is the business arm of the Commonwealth, and this year we coordinated with the Samoan government to host the Commonwealth Business Forum. This is the biggest business forum that we host in the Commonwealth, and it was great to see strong Gibraltar participation, particularly with the Deputy Chief Minister participating in both plenary and roundtable discussions.
Excellent. So there was a real buzz around it because of course, the fact that the King visited. So not just a new Commonwealth Secretary, I believe it was, but also a new Secretary General, but also a new monarch. What did that do for the meetings and the ambiente?
Absolutely. Well, it grew on its importance. So apart from being a monarch, he's also suffering from cancer. He's put his treatment aside. He's gone all the way from the UK at his age to Samoa, the other side of the world, which showcased his commitment to the Commonwealth. And for us to be there, that was absolutely great. And the DCM managed to exchange a few words with the King. And also, you rightly pointed out, there's a new Secretary General that has been appointed. She's gone in and she will be taking up posts in the next year.
And we heard some of the international headlines coming out of there to do with the slave trade, and the time has come for a conversation about reparations. Was this did this make the tone of meetings difficult, or was there still plenty of constructive conversations to be had?
Absolutely. So the beauty of the Commonwealth is that you embrace the new challenges that are faced by the Commonwealth, and I think the UK have already expressed a position in terms of reparations. Luckily, Gibraltar does not really participate in those type of discussions. We are focused on the commercial side, on the youth side, and kind of the Women's and People's Forum. So you'd realise away from the headlines that there's a good air to collaborate, in particular with the Pacific countries, because this was the first time that was held in the Pacific. It is an opportunity for Little Samoa to host the biggest event. So away from the headlines, it almost detracts us from the work on the ground, which is one of working together, having that Commonwealth, which is the theme of this TROGM. So in a nutshell, we're all there to work together, and part of the process of going to these events is identifying the areas where we can collaborate, where we can share information, and where we can learn from each other.
Okay, so you mentioned there some of the themes. You're focusing on business. Who are you sitting down with, and what sort of conversations are being had?
Absolutely. So in terms of the Gibraltar participation, we had the Deputy Chief Minister on a plenary discussion alongside other countries, which in terms of Gibraltar being able to do that across other forums, I can't think of anything off the top of my head where Gibraltar has that equal standing with other heads of state. So to have little Gibraltar be represented in such a big event with the heads of state is particularly important, particularly where we find ourselves internationally with the treaty. So we are not kind of waiting on a treaty in terms of the Commonwealth. We're being proactive. We're going to Samoa. We have seen some Gibraltar and India events. You were there for the Indian High Commission one in London. So this is a small Gibraltar showing how agile we can be and being there at the forefront, trying to spot what the trends are. And when you identify a trend, you need to be bold and go for it.
Fair to say that the India event that you refer to, the hosted by the Indian High Commissioner in London, there was considerable excitement among the local businessmen and women there because obviously India is such a powerhouse of an economy, and they told GBC that it felt significant that they were being hosted by the Indian High Commissioner in London.
Exactly. So we have seen how the Gibraltar and Commonwealth relationships has grown in recent years, and for us to have an event hosted by the High Commission in India House in London is substantial.
Okay, Jared, tell us a little bit about there was a women's forum, a youth forum, and also a people's forum. Were Gibraltar represented at those?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Gibraltar delegation consisted of the Deputy Chief Minister from the government side, and then we also had two youth representatives. So the youth representative did represent us at the youth forum. We also participated in the People's Forum, and obviously the business forum. So really what you have in these four forums is a widespread of all the issues that the Commonwealth face. And in many regards, I realize that Gibraltar is ahead of the curve in many ways. So for example, in the People's Forum, they were speaking about integrating the elderly back into the community, and they were trying to look at the ways of embedding them back into society. And if we look at the Gibraltar example, for example, in Monte you have an elderly block. So you have the canteen there, and then you have other blocks where maybe relatives will live. So it's interesting to see how Gibraltar has already preempted many of these issues, and how we already done many of the things that the Commonwealth are trying to do now. So there's an opportunity for Gibraltar to share our knowledge and experience, as there is the opportunity to learn the other way.
Okay, and if we look at the women's theme, what was discussed there? Who represented us?
Yep, so we were represented by Christina, which also represents us in the Youth Forum. So in terms of Women's Forum, they did focus on inclusivity, and this was led by Baroness Scotland. Luckily, we do have quite a good level of integration here, so the issues that Commonwealth countries, which are in developing countries, face in terms of trying to get them equal representation is something that luckily we don't have to deal with in Gibraltar.
Okay, and what does attending an event like this do for the young people who represented us at the Youth Forum? We've spoken to the likes of Adriana Lopez in the past, but from your perspective, you must see them grow, I suppose, when they're there, no? From the conversations they have?
Yeah, absolutely. So 60% of the Commonwealth is under 30, so that gives you a good grip of how it is in terms of importance for youth. And having been there myself as a youth delegate in previous years, it is a life-changing experience because you get a good grounding as to the issues that the Commonwealth face. And bear in mind that it is the youth that will face the consequences of climate change and the need to diversify economy in an unstable world. So it is important for the youth to be there at the forefront, learning from what is happening in other countries, and then bringing back those ideas and experiences back to Gibraltar and see how we can implement them here.
True. So for you, it's been like a bit of a springboard, like as you say, like a life-changing event. It's put you on a course now where the Commonwealth plays a very big part in your life.
Absolutely. So the first event that I went to the Commonwealth was 6 years ago. And when you look at international relations, international trade, there's power and consistency. So we need to be there at all these big events. We need to be represented in all the big forums, particularly in view of the treaty that is ongoing. And also you get respected by the bigger countries because they see you present. It shows that you are serious. In terms of my projection, yes, it's been absolutely fantastic. From my representation in the UK, I've also gone to Rwanda and now recently Samoa. Every time I try and bring the ideas back and see if we can implement them in Gibraltar, and of course see if we can identify synergies with other countries.
And let me play devil's advocate, if you don't mind, Jared. You mentioned climate change, being such a big issue, COP ongoing at the moment. What would you say to somebody who's thinking that traveling to the other side of the world is extravagant and, it brings with it a considerable carbon footprint?
Yes, absolutely. That's not exclusive just to the Commonwealth, but it's for COP29. I think the importance there is that when you do meet in person, that you do set up the policies that will last several years. So it's a bit of a balance that you need to adopt. And in terms of the Commonwealth, obviously the island states are the one that suffer the most from climate change. So to have this event in Samoa and for all the delegates from across the Commonwealth to be there to see the effects of climate change firsthand, I think that gives you a good impression that then you take home and then hopefully adopt those policies back home.
So tell us about Samoa. What's it like?
Well, it's a bit of a far place to get to. It's 2 days travel, but they do have, in a way, some draw across for Gibraltar because you have tiny Samoa, which have about 250,000 inhabitants in Samoa, hosting the biggest event that Commonwealth has. Obviously, Gibraltar is small, but we have seen how proactive we are with the likes of India, having travelled to Samoa. So there's a lot of draw across, but obviously Samoa is a developing state. But what does take me back is the ability to learn. So they are a poor country, they are developing, but part of the reason for them to bring us all over there is for us to kind of showcase what is being done in the Commonwealth and see how they can reflect that. So just to give you an example, they are Pacific islands, and as a standalone island, they may not be that strong, but together through different Pacific pacts that they have done, they have strength in unity. which may have draw crosses for British overseas territories, for Crown dependencies. So there are opportunities to learn, there are opportunities to engage. They are trying to develop their financial systems now. Gibraltar has a highly developed financial system.
So there may be opportunities there to sort of share skills and knowledge, no?
Absolutely.
Good stuff, Jared. I mean, you really strike me as somebody who's passionate genuinely about the Commonwealth, and it's not just sort of a job title, no?
Absolutely. So I live and breathe this. So this is a 24/7. Obviously, we work in different time zone. And I think the importance that the Commonwealth has for Gibraltar is paramount. We've seen that since we left the European Union. The Commonwealth has reached close to centre stage. Obviously, treaty negotiation is at centre, but the Commonwealth is there away from the spotlight, but ready to support in any way we can.